Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to V Sports Nation. Tonight, we're discussing the upcoming welterweight championship fight between Terence Crawford and Kell Brook. Stay tuned. So Terence Crawford, the WBO welterweight world champion, one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world, will defend his title against Kell Brook. The event is going to take place tomorrow night, live on ESPN. It's going to be televised from the MGM bubble in Las Vegas, promoted by Top Rank, and it's time to give our take on the fight. This fight would have been a top-notch fight, would have been 50-50 fight a few years ago when Kell Brook was in his prime. In fact, if this was Kell Brook from the Porter fight and from his original welterweight championship reign, it would be reasonable to assume that he was the favorite to win the fight. But since this is a Kell Brook that's coming off two damaging KO defeat, two injuries in each of those fights, and a weight drain, Kell Brook coming from 154 pounds, it's hard to see how this is going to be a top-notch fight. Obviously, Terence Crawford is going to be a favorite, but you just never know. You just never know if Kell Brook has that one last fight in him, and if he does, it might be a tough night for Terence but Crawford. In fact, if we take a look at their resumes, their recent resumes, Terence Crawford as a welterweight, he won his championship by defeating Jeff Horn, which was a good win on paper because Jeff Horn was coming off a Pacquiao win, but he wasn't really a top fighter, and according to most ring observers, he got a hometown gift decision against Manny Pacquiao. After that, Terence Crawford went on an unimpressive reign, which consists of Jose Benavidez Jr., Amir Khan, and Egidijus Kavaliauskas, who actually dropped Terence Crawford. So that's a red alarm sign. If you were Team Crawford, you definitely should not take this as an easy fight. And if you are Kell Brook, you better be ready for one last hurrah, one last great fight of your career, because Kell Brook at the moment doesn't look anything like prime Kell Brook. And if we take a look at his recent record, I know that it might not sound that he was a champion long time ago, but his championship reign was finished with Kevin Bizier fight, de facto finished with Kevin Bizier fight in early 2016. Then he, with no apparent reason, moved up two weight divisions to challenge Gennady Golovkin, which he was doing okay, but the size difference was so big, and Golovkin was top pound for pound fighter at the time. He eventually walked down and stopped injured Kell Brook in 5 rounds. Then Kell Brook, despite being injured, weight drained himself back to 147 pound division. He lost to Errol Spence, and he gave a good account of himself. He was winning on points, but Errol Spence was able to prevail eventually in a life and death fight and eventually stop Kell Brook in the 11th round. After that, Kell Brook moved up to 154 pound division. He beat Sergey Rabchenko, he beat Michael Zafara, and he beat Mark DeLuca. All three not very impressive opponents, and to be honest, Kell Brook's showings were not impressive either. And now he's coming back to 147 pound division to challenge one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world. So I can't see how we can call this a top fight. It's not a top fight. It's not anything close to a 50-50 fight. But like I said, there's a very small chance for an upset, but still there's a chance, and it's a good thing that this fight is on regular ESPN, so it's not pay-per-view. You don't have to pay for it, so it's definitely worth watching. And with that, we're out. Have a good night. Catch you in the next one.